It's a great pleasure to be on our second masterclass. We done the first one last week. Was not the real first one, but the first one of this new series of masterclass around sake, trying to understand and capture the Nihonshu, which Nihonshu is the real name of Japanese sake. So today I'm out of the office. I'm somewhere else in Barcelona, but I will present our masterclass of today. And Nicolas will take the relay to do the masterclass as I done last week. So each week we'll share the masterclass. So this week will be Nicolas. I done the other one last week. That was on the making of sake. It was very difficult to capture in 25 minutes the making of sake, but trying to get outside what's happening in the world of sake. Today is going to be about the classification of sake. Very complex classification, sometimes to understand, link to the label, link to our understanding between junmai sake, between aruten sake, between Daigenjo, and it's much complex, and it's much more complex than that. There's a big movement right now in Japan of a young generation, not only young, but new generation, and people who are trying to open and trying to do new things with the sake production, elaboration, aging, working with different koji, different rice, different process. So some get out of the appellation of the DO. Everything is changing. Everything is moving fast everywhere in the world, and also in sake in Japan. So today Nicolas will try to capture that, to explain you what's happening in Japan right now. So and after that, and 25 minutes. So after that, if you need to understand more about that, you can go on our sakegraphy community that we starting to build on the Tanaka 1789 Chartier.com website. There's a community part that all the texts are there, and we will put this text, this report a couple of days from now in English and French. So, but there's many other things on the community. So hope you will be able to capture and understand a little bit more what's happening with this classification. And Nicolas will have some slides also to show you. We've been working on different slides to explain that, trying to get a better image, mental image about the classification. So just enjoy yourself, Nicolas, also about sharing with everyone, and let's keep having good sake.
Voilà. Thank you so much. Yeah, the idea comes from this sake. A long time ago with François, we went in Japan and we find this amazing sake. And at this time, like 4 years ago, I didn't understand anything about Japanese. I still didn't understand anything, but we can miss this kind of product because we don't understand the label, because we don't understand like the classification. So the idea, really quickly, we're going to try in 20 minutes to explain what's happened in sake world. Of course, sake world is different, the language, the culture, the philosophy. So for me, the main and the most important thing is going to be a little bit to forgive and forget what we learn about wine, what we learn about tequila or whatever, and we start to zero. Because for a long time, I was trying to make like a comparison of wine and sake, and if you try to do this, you're going to lose time first, and maybe you're going to miss a part of sake philosophy. Always remember, like ice story, you always get the answer inside the ice story. Why? Because usually beverage is amazing. It's always like the mirror or what happened in a country. And with Japan and sake, that's absolutely true. So when we're going to make all masterclass, we're always going to find why, how, and in which moment, because it's this kind of change. As François says, there is big change in classification in sake. It's a really old beverage. More than 2,000 years ago, it was made for the first time. And the legislation is really new. This is a legislation, I'm pretty sure most of you know about it. This is a Seishu and Nihonshu legislation. The first legislation about sake was in 1943, during the Second World War. The great one, it was called TOKUBETSU Seido. It was really more easy. It was just the government was tasting sake, and the best sake was more taxes. It was to show the first quality always. But what's happened? After a while, the Kura say, okay, we don't want any more tax, so we're gonna do something. I don't want to pay, so I'm making bad sake. And like this, my tax is lower and maybe I can sell more. So after a while, this classification you see over there, it was built in 89, 91. And why? Really easy to understand. If you have a look at this classification, you get three main parts. We're gonna see adding additive, polishing rates, and adding or not alcohol. And why? Just because, first of all, polishing rates, you can do a really good polishing just because now, in around the 18th, 17th, the ginjo style appeared. The production was better and better. The technology allowed to polish this and to get this high quality. About alcohol, aruten or junmai, there is an article since 1 month, I think, in Sakegraphy about this. You need to know, like before Second World War, all the sake was junmai without alcohol added. During the Second World War, they start to put alcohol inside for a few reasons. You can read it on the article. So what's happened? There is two new big categories, and junmai step by step, one more time, so around the 18th, start to go back and start to rebirth. So when they create this, they say, okay, adding or not alcohol, polishing rates, and adding or not additive. In this case, this is how they create the first legislation in 89, 91. It was done. We are talking 1991. It's like 29 years ago, and I know this because I just was born. So that's quite really new and interesting to understand this. In this case, to be sake premium, I didn't write it on this, you need to get more than 15% of koji. If you remember last week, François said in Tanaka, we use 30%, 33%. And in this case, we need to have more than 50%, sorry. That's one part of this. And I'm pretty sure when you read it on some website, you heard about TOKUBETSU. This is a word we use also in our bottle. TOKUBETSU, what does it mean? Because I heard a lot of things about this. It just means special. What is special? This is really subjective question because everything can be special. For me, when I'm going to Japan and eat sushi, that's special for me, but for Japanese people, it's more normal. So the idea here is to be special in your own kura. Example, I am producing only sake with alcohol added and with Yamada Nishiki rice. If one day I'm producing a junmai with kuro no ana rice, really different, and a shubo different, and I think it's different, it's special, the character of my sake, I can just go to the prefecture and say, I think this is TOKUBETSU for my part. And usually 99% of the time you can have this legislation. It's not about percentage, that's true. Usually TOKUBETSU is more 60% around all the TOKUBETSU for one reason, it's about character. Of course, less you polish, more character, more umami, more strong flavor you got. But in the law, you can make a TOKUBETSU with everything if you think in your range of own sake, it's different and it's special. For me, the really interesting thing about this classification, that's a really nice and really good first step in your introduction to sake. Why? Because it gives you some really nice indication about the character of the sake. In this way, what does it mean? If it's fruity, it's light, you get a great fragrance, it's a long taste. We know now more polishing, more fragrance, more melon, more watermelon, more apple nuts. At the other side, more you polish, less you polish, more umami, more stronger, maybe you can eat the sake. So that the first legislation was made to help the consumer to find it in 1991. If we go straight, and since long time in France, we know AOC or AVA in United States in wine or a lot of legislation. Here, since only 15 years, you got a new EGI, geographical indication, like as we know in other world. That's so recent, that's 15 years ago. And the first one was Akusan, so that's the small city there. And it was created just for, I call it reaction, just because in United States in 2000, a sake kura was built and the name was Akusan. So the city say, oh, they cannot use this name because this is our, and people are going to make misunderstanding. But if you don't protect your name, everyone can use it. So when the Kura closed in 2005, Akusan gets the idea to get the first GI just before Nihonshu, 10 years before Nihonshu, to protect the wall. And that's how the reaction grew. It wasn't to protect really the way of making, but more the name. And step by step, so we are talking 5 years ago, so nearly yesterday, Nihonshu was born in 2015. Nihonshu, it was really a nice example to protect sake world, because sake can be made all around the world and Nihonshu only in Japan. To be Nihonshu, it's really easy in a way. You need to have your kura in Japan, your rice coming from Japan. So it's not really complex. And step by step, Yamagata, Nadagogo, Arima, and Mie just create a new legislation. Mie is not on the map because it was put in June. So that's really recent. And usually all this GI asking to get the water from the region, asking for a kind of rice. In this case, only Arima asking to get the Yamada Nishiki from Yogo. The other one are more open, the rice needs to come from Japan. But the most important, you are tasting. The brewer are tasting, an association, brewery association gonna taste the sake and gonna say if you are allowed or not to get the GI. So in this kind, what I feel really interesting, we are going back a little bit in terroir, in culture. Every style is different. And for example, Arima is more famous to make light and refreshing sake, when Akusan is making more full-bodied sake. So we got the terroir identity, we got a new way of thinking, because that's new. I'm pretty sure, like in France in 35 or in 40s, when we created the first appellation d'origine contrôlée in wine, and we defined everything, it was new, and now it's like common. So we are really on the first step, on the first building of something new. We are working in Miyagi, and we try and we push also to get NGI and protect our way to see and the culture, and to define more and more how it works over there. So this map is quite interesting, and if you are just interested and you are preparing some exam, I think it's a question you can find in some exam, because I'm helping some sommelier to be best sommelier in each country, and sake is more and more in question. You got only 2 prefectures to get a GI. So if you get a question, how many prefectures get a GI? The answer is not 6, it's 2. It's Yamagata and Mie, because the other one, this is city and not the full prefecture. That's just a part, but if some people are preparing some exam, that's a little bit tricky, and this is the stuff they can ask usually. So now we get a bigger and full picture, gonna say, of what's gonna happen in Nihonshu world. Is gonna be more and more precise, more and more determined, and I think it's gonna be more and more interesting every day to learn this, to get more information. Because I used to say more information you get, more curiosity you get, and more you're gonna find it. I used to live in Spain since 4 years, and I remember I arrived about Jerez, and I was learning Jerez like classic ways. That's mean oloroso, fino, amontillado, manzanilla de San Lucas de Barrameda, cream. And step by step, I discovered Jerez is so much more complex. You get pago, you get parcel, you got a kind of really great philosophy. And I fell in love in Jerez at the moment I put myself inside. It's impossible to be in Jerez, but like in sake. But more and more you learn, more and more you want to know. And I think Japan is going on it. So what you can find on your label. On your label, you're going to find the type of drink, the alcohol content, the ingredients, so rice and koji, and alcohol if you are arute. Production date, be careful, this is a bottling date or the shipment date. This is not the year of production. I can produce in 2015 and bottle in 2018. Another bottle is going to be 2018. Example on this bottle, this is 2019. I got in my hand, but it's age variable. It was like, I think the production year is 2011. So that's important. Volume and name of sake brewery. This is always information legal. You must put in your label. What is interesting here is you got so much more information. You got so much more information interesting, your provider can give you, and also, of course, internet can give you. You're gonna find the brewing year, the polishing ratio, usually the sake meter value, the type of yeast, type of rice, type of sake, production method. I'm gonna pass on it and explain everything. The brewing year is quite interesting. You can find it usually in a strange way, writing it's over there. If you see it, usually you can find this 29BY. What does it mean? And I think that's quite important because a lot of traditional sake using it because this is respecting the tradition of Japan. Here we are talking about year. We are talking about era. Era, it was the Eisei era before, since until 2019, and it started in 1988. So H1 brewing year, it was 1988, the first year of Akihito, the emperor-like emperor. So of course, then you go and grow up. So the last year of the emperor was 19, in 2019 they changed it. So the last year was H31B brewing year. And in 2020, this is a new one with Naruhito. And Naruhito, the particularity is called Reiwa era. So it's gonna be R1B1. That's quite interesting to know because in the Japanese label, what you can read most easily, we're gonna say, is gonna be the numbers. So just be careful because you get a lot of percentage. You can get the alcohol, you can get the rice polishing, you can get rice, and the date. So no making mistake if you get the date on it and mixing. Usually bottling date is writing like in our culture, we're gonna say like vintage, and producing usually is writing like this. And when you got this information, you can just start to know which kind of product you got inside the bottle. I come back, you got the rice polishing ratio, that's classic, you know it. You got the type of sake, ginjo, dai ginjo. This is not an obligation to put it, that we need to be clear on that. You got the sake meter value, quite a lot of sake is putting it. And I just want to precise something about it. What is this? Nihon Shudo, or sake meter value, this is just a question of density. So they put a scale, the density of water was 0, and then they are making like a percentage, a rate between sugar and alcohol. We know alcohol density is lower than water, and sugar is higher. So when you are making this, you can just know if it's gonna be the density high, more alcohol than sugar, or low, more sugar than alcohol, because of density. But pretty sure you know that's not everything, because we miss the acidity factor. Example with wine, we got a Riesling from Germany, 30 grams sugar per liter. Yeah, but if you got an amazing acidity, you're not gonna feel this sensation. So sake meter value is good to understand, good to keep in mind, but always be careful with this because you can have amazing surprise. When we are tasting all the sake of the Kura, it tastes blind always. And at the end, we receive the paper with all the information. And at this moment, we are always sometimes surprised of what happened because if you get amazing acidity, you can get sugar. That's always a balance. So when you get the sake meter value behind, just sometimes be careful. Don't think +4. Okay, it's going to be dry. You can get some surprise, and you always better to try. The type of yeast, name of brewer. And something I want to talk, it's about production method. More and more people are making the production method because more and more people start to know about it. So this is a little bit the revolution, and this is, I think, that the next generation gonna push. And more we're gonna know, more and more the market is ready to drink sake. That's gonna be interesting. In production method, we got all these terms. Maybe you already heard about this. It's called Genshu. Genshu, that means undiluted sake. This is not because the sake is aruten with alcohol added, that you're going to feel more the alcohol than in a junmai. You need to know that after making the sake is diluted to get lower in alcohol and also to get a little bit more fragrance. We're going to have a big talk about this next week, about junmai, aruten, and maybe dilution. So Genshu, this is no dilution, so usually you get more alcohol, around 20%, more umami, more powerful notes. Koshu, this is aged sake, more than 3 years, but there is no law. This could be 3 years, 5 years, 6 years. It's more about taste and perception. I like to compare a little bit Koshu. I say to never compare wine and sake, and I'm making this since 20 minutes, but this is how we are. This is Koshu, it's a little bit for rancio for me. In Spain, rancio, this is more about taste. You don't get law about rancio. Rancio in Catalonia is different from Spain, is different from France. You got a philosophy. Koshu is a little bit the same. Koshu, this is a philosophy, a taste, and if you think you are Koshu, you can put Koshu on it. Kishoshu, this is what I'm drinking right now. Kishoshu is a little bit particular, and this is why when I start to learn and I find this bottle, I say we need to try it. You know, when you produce sake, François explained to you, you are making a small batch, and you're gonna add rice, water, and producing more and more. So in Kishoshu, you add rice and you get sake to get something more powerful, also to stop the fermentation more quickly. So usually what you get more sugar inside. It's a little bit more sweet, and this one is aged barrel. It looks like a sauterne, a whole sauterne with walnuts, honey, almonds, and that's really, really interesting. You got Nigori style. Nigori style is going to be more cloudy sake, unfiltered sake. I don't like to use unfiltered sake. I wrote about it last month also about loss in translation. Nigori is filtered, just in a bigger way. You can read the article. Ori sake is sake we keep the lees of sake. So after filtration, you always get some lees. It's really small one, and you take it. You got also Nama sake, of course, Nama Shuzo, Nama Zume. So Nama, you don't get any pasteurization. Nama Zume and Nama Shoso, you get only one pasteurization. What is important to take in account if you see it? Nama usually is more fragrant. Nama usually is more powerful. Nama is always more expressive about fruit. When you are making a pasteurization, you can, of course, kill bacteria. That's the term because you eat the sake. And if you kill bacteria, you kill bad and good bacteria. So that's why always be careful how to heat and how to not destroy this. Nama sake, just quick parenthesis, people say we need to take care of it. It's really precaution. And I'm quite surprised. We receive a lot of Nama sake traveling by plane, normal temperature. We open it, we let it, we try it, and it's still really good. Get evolution, but it's still good. We really believe like if you get a strong sake with strong structure, he can live by himself. He can still living. So sometimes don't try to be so kind with all sake. Maybe some people are gonna kill me, but sake is a strong beverage. Sake can survive. So you can make some time, some test. Example, this sake is open since 7 months in my home and not even in fridge. Yeah, maybe crazy, but if he can survive and it prove it, I think that's quite interesting sometimes to brusque a little bit. You got taru sake. Taru sake, that's when it's put in the classical oak or Japanese oak. Really powerful, really more oaky than what we know because this is cedar oak and it's really strong, powerful, really on it. And amasake, this is like a kind of sake without alcohol. All of this information you can get, you can learn. There is no secret about it. One of my secrets is like I'm starting learning Japanese. And if you take it like a game, like all the kanji you get here, you're taking like a game and you understand like one kanji with the other one means something. Not talking fluently Japanese, of course, but in sake, we are talking about rice, yeast, and if you learn this kind of kanji, if you learn this kind of way of speaking really quickly, you're gonna get on it. And I go back to the idea, more quick and more easy you think it is, more you get curiosity and more you're gonna go deep. So when you're gonna see a label, what I used to do is Google traduction. Okay, you get the classic application with photo. You can make the traduction, but it's also always to find how you use it. A lot of people and importer are helping you to give you more information about it. And that's really interesting for you. I think more and more sake is going to be more giving more information because they understand it. Sake is quiet, and Japan is really close. I used to say I was surprised when you go there. For me, it was Sony, it was big screen, it was PlayStation, really easygoing, and amazing food. And you go there, and few people speak English, and few people are really open. If you go to the countryside, when we are going to Miyagi, that's amazing. They never see some white tall guy with blue eyes. So step by step, they're going to start to give more information, and we need to be able to get more information. That's why we are seeking the classification going to go deeper and deeper, the structure going to go deeper and deeper. Sake is moving fast. They want to move fast, and that's really a good trend. We are talking now about vegan sake, good or bad, but that's always a good step. We are more and more info going about yeast, about a lot of research about rice, and you're gonna see it on the sakegraphy. So that's just the first step to remind you. And now when we're gonna start the more complex masterclass about yeast, junmai production next week, like this, you got a quite good pack to start on it, and so and also to follow us and to follow it to start to understand on your part. So that's the main stuff. I do it right in 29 minutes in 4. I speak a little bit less than François. I hope it was a good understanding. If one time you can find this, please really try it. That's amazing. I'm gonna write what is this. That's maybe one of the best kishoshu we find. There is such amazing sake all around the world, so try it and get curious about label. It's losing time, but that's maybe the only way to get it, and follow the classification. It's going to move fast and more and more. François is not here to answer the questions. I don't know if there is some. I don't think so. I didn't. So here we go. So question you can ask him of sakegraphy, you can send email. We got an email for whatever you need. And thank you so much to follow this sakegraphy. It's 4 o'clock, and I don't want to take more time than we can. So thank you so much. Having a nice day, everyone, and thank you to follow us. And next week is going to be about adding or not alcohol in sake. Thank you so much. Bye.